Called it. Missouri radio host Vic Faust fired from TV gig after unhinged, cruel rant against co-host. And basically, I commented on like a previous article that was about this, and I basically said that look, in that article, it wasn't released whether or not he was fired or not at that point, and I was like, this guy screwed up his career with this rant, regardless if he felt like he was in the right or not. He completely ruined his career with that rant, right? Because I predicted that he was basically going to get fired from that place, and also that almost no one else is really going to be willing to take him in. And the reason for that, they basically will view him as a liability. What, is this guy going to blow up on the other coworkers now? Is this guy going to burn bridges now? Is this guy going to piss off someone now? Like, is he actually going to get into a physical altercation now? Right? They can't trust him. That's the problem. They are not going to be able to trust him, which means that it's going to be extremely hard for an employer to be like, oh, yeah, we'll hire you, even though we can't trust you to be good to your coworkers. No, like, it just doesn't make sense, right? And the worst part about this, too, is that if he had friends that like backed him in the community of radio, TV, that media, whatever, right? He's basically burnt bridges with this rant, right? Because you don't do something like this, right? Like as a radio show person or like a media person, you should be true to the way that you act on and off so that if something does happen like this, people already know what you are like. So it's not going to be a big difference. And you're not going to be burning any bridges because the bridges that you have already know how you are like. But let's get into it because like I predicted this is basically going to happen because like it was just such a stupid thing for him to do. Like you don't blow up at a coworker, it solves nothing, and honestly, it probably just makes you even more pissed off afterwards. So Missouri radio host went berserk on his stunned co-host in an unhinged caught on tape tirade last week, apologized for the outburst, but still got sacked from his TV gig. And by the way, the thing is, he probably shouldn't have even apologized, right? Because the reality is, the way that he went at her, he meant every single thing that he said. Like, the way that he went about it, he meant everything from my perspective. So Vic Faust was fired this week from his job as an anchor at Fox 2 in St. Louis, or Louis. The St. Louis Post-Dispatch reported Wednesday. Vic Faust no longer works for Fox 2 KPLR Channel 11 or Next Star Media, station manager Kurt Kruger said. Next Star Media is the parent company of the local station. The announced termination comes 2 days after the St. Louis Post-Dispatch obtained leaked audio of Faust berating co-host Krista Cooper with a stream of profanities and cool personal insults during a show Faust hosts on hard rock station KFNS. The potty mouthed bully even went as far to call Cooper a lousy mother. And here's the thing, right? Like, I don't know the personal relationship between these two individuals, right? I don't really know what was going on behind the scenes. Like, I don't know. Probably no one knows other than them, right? But the reality is, when you attack someone so personally and they are your coworker, there are so many lines that have been crossed. Because this isn't like a situation where like you have two buddies that you've known for like 5 plus 10 plus years, right? that you guys basically just berate each other any chance you get for the fun of it, right? Whereas like a mutual respect of bashing each other over the head, right? This isn't that type of situation, right? This was two coworkers that probably had a thin tolerance for one another, and this goes on. Like it's just not a good thing to do. So your kids have a bleep terrible mom, he nastily said. I feel sorry for them. And Faust expressed remorse in a tweet Wednesday and said he was ashamed of his ugly behavior. And here's the thing, right? Faust, this guy, didn't even have the balls to just like say this outright, right? Like you had the balls to say this stuff to a chick to her face, but you didn't have the balls to be way more open and like an apology if you actually meant an apology, which I don't think you meant. Like this is the thing. Like I mentioned earlier, my personal belief is that everything that he said is probably something that he actually believes. Again, my personal belief, right? I don't know if that's factual, but when you make such personal attacks towards someone, because like this isn't just like like a random like picking something random like that hat you're wearing is like stupid or something, right? No, like these were like personal attacks, like straight up personal attacks, trying to like basically hit at like all of her like very weak exposed parts, basically. Let's see. No, no, no. I am very sorry my words hurt Crystal, my colleagues, and family, Faust said. I doubt that. I made a huge mistake. By the way, if you hear whining, that is a German Shepherd husky thing. As I work to earn trust again, I hope we can have an open dialogue about respect in the workplace and forgiveness. Faust dropped dozens of obscenities during the September 13th rant, criticized Cooper's appearance and intelligence, and warned her to never co host the show with him again. He also called her trash and told her, "You're nothing," according to the leaked audio. The unhinged verbal assault was apparently unleashed after Cooper poked fun at Faust over his computer skills. And Faust was with Fox 2 for 7 years before he was cut this week, and his radio show appears to be on hold, the St. Louis Post-Dispatch report. So let's see some of the comments because it's going to be probably pretty interesting. On the bright side, he doesn't ever have to worry about her co-hosting with him again since he was the one fired. Why apologize? He meant every word he said. Just explain why, but don't try to walk it back. She pissed him off, and that was the final straw. Explain. Don't get all PC on us. And here's the thing, like I kinda agree with this statement because it's like you obviously meant what you said to her. Why? Why did you explode like that? Why did you personally attack her like that? Right? And the thing is, I don't even know what their show is even about. I'm sick of the PC BS, but what he did and said was totally unprofessional and fully deserving of firing. And this is the thing. I agree, right? I agree that this was completely unprofessional and fully deserving of firing. And by the way, this other comment, there's no explanation for such a bullying verbal attack. Maybe if she had killed his firstborn or something, right? So in my previous commentary about this situation, right, the only justification that I basically said that would make sense to me for him to actually blow up like this would be if he well, basically, if she basically endangered his life in some way, or endangered someone's life in some way, right? Like it had to be that serious of a thing to blow up the way that he did, to make such personal attacks like he did, right? Like I said, this isn't like, oh, you are wearing a stupid t shirt, or like, oh, your viewpoint on that thing is completely moronic, right? No. Like these were straight up personal attacks. Let's see. This is what every morning guy you've ever loved is really like when the microphone is off. I really hope that's not the case. Let's see. Let's see. Let's see. So this person says he's not wrong. She came to work not knowing the topics being discussed that day. She embarrassed him on air and was unprofessional. So that's this is the thing, right? This is something where like you don't go and blow up on someone, but basically during like this break, you basically have like a very serious talk with them and be like, "Hey, what you did today was completely unprofessional. You showed that you don't respect your job at all. You showed that you don't care about anything that's going on within the show. And we may have to seriously reconsider you actually even being here because if you're not even willing to spend the time to do the research, then how can we even trust you to even engage in anything on the show ever, right? Like you could have a conversation like that, get the point across and be like, "Hey, like if you don't change something, we got to go a different way." The ranter forced his employer to fire him because he threatened a coworker and created a hostile working environment. Failure to act invites legal ramifications. The outcome is the same if the co-host was straight white male. Also, the ranter chose to go off during commercial break rather than live for a reason. At some level, he was aware his behavior was inappropriate. And this is kind of like my point, right? It's like he is now a liability anywhere he goes. Like, that's the problem. He is now a liability no matter where he goes. And the biggest thing, because, we always talk about finances on this, since he was working there for like 6, 7 years, he was probably thinking that he's going to like be working there till he probably got like a pension or something or retired, right? I bet you he didn't manage his money correctly at all. Probably has a really expensive mortgage or something. Probably has a crazy amount of credit card debt. Probably even has student loan debt, and is probably screwed for financially, right? So like, what is he going to do? What is he going to do now for an income? Like he literally self imploded, destroyed his career, right? Just because he couldn't handle his emotions. And by the way, like the way that he blew up with such personal attacks, he probably needs to talk to someone. Not his wife, if he has a wife, or his partner, or whatever. He probably needs to talk to someone that's like a pro at it and be like, why did I blow up the way that I blew up? Because he could end up doing this again if he were to work someplace else, just because someone might have like disrespected him or something. Let's see. Anything else? Let's see. Radio, what's that? The funny thing is, radio is still such a big industry. There are still people on radio making hundreds of millions of dollars, and they only do radio. Like, how crazy is that? Don't let the girls provoke you to anger. Not reading that. Dude, Jesus. Yeah, feel free to give your thoughts on this. Like, I basically, not surprisingly, kind of like predicted this fiasco, like the outcome of this. And the thing is, look, I hope for his sake that he was good with his money. Because if he was working there for like 7-ish years and has like no money to his name, like that's worthwhile, his family might be completely screwed, right? Like, say that they were living paycheck to paycheck, no money in the bank, expensive mortgage, car loans, credit card bills, student loans, daycare, if they have kids, and all that kind of stuff. He's facing some pretty serious stuff, like a really bad financial situation that was, in retrospect, basically all his fault because he decided to blow up. And I say that he decided to because, like what one of those comments said, he blew up on the commercial break, right? This wasn't like something that was like an immediate reaction where they did it live on the show. This was when they were not live, on commercial break, and he chose to blow up like that. So, it was a choice, and it was a really bad choice. If you want to learn how to get out of debt and master your money, go to 40inbox.com or down below to learn how I got out of debt and grew my net worth. Because the main reason why you want to secure your finances, like your personal finance, is that if for some reason you got into a situation where you're no longer working due to your own fault or not, you would be financially okay and would have enough time to go find another job or start your own thing.